I mean, anti-dilution is quite common these days. There are different versions though. Excuse me. So there is the more common, which is called broad-based weighted average. And that is a fancy way of saying that if you issue equity in a future round after I've invested, and that is at a value lower than what I paid during my round, that the company will basically give me a small percentage of extra equity when I convert my shares later on into an ordinary share. So what that means is they want to hedge their bets and say, well, when I invested, it was valued at $3 million, and now I'm investing and you're saying it's valued at $2 million. So I need to be topped up, essentially, when we exit the business so that, my valuation ends up coming out at about 2.5. And the reason that they do that is because obviously when they invested in you, they believed that the valuation would go up, and sadly it's gone down. That is one that we see quite often, and we're seeing less, I guess, resistance against those terms because they only really come into effect if the company is raising further rounds at a lower valuation. So that means something bad's happened or the valuation was just far too high at the beginning. The other one is a ratchet clause, which we see far less of, and that's basically a 1-for-1 top-up. So that means if you do raise during a down round, rather than me get a percentage to find a happy medium between the old price and the new price, I just get an extra share for every share that you issue during that down round, which means that the founders have massive dilution, and I stay the same. So my 10% remains from the start through to the next round, whereas the founders will obviously take the full hit from that cap raise at the lower valuation, and the investors are isolated from it. We don't see that very often. I think in my 4 or 5 years working with startups, I've seen it once.
Oh wow!
And it was rejected. It was rejected very, very firmly.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a great incentive as well to put a fair valuation on to begin with. If you
yeah. And I mean, look, because the investors participate in the valuation, it makes you less sympathetic to a ratchet clause because they heavily participate in determining what that valuation should have been. So if they were overexcited as well, then, sadly, they should kind of be responsible for some of the damage incurred by that future down round. It shouldn't be that they're completely absolved of it. So pay to play, as far as the way that we see it, is that the anti-dilution only lasts when you reinvest during the next round. So you can only take the benefit of an anti-dilution term on the basis that you reinvest during the next round anyway. We also see another term that comes in, and is coming in more often with some of the more balanced term sheets, which is that some of those special preference rights around anti-dilution, for example, only survive until the next round if the round is higher. So they will say, I need this to protect myself if your second cap raise is at a lower valuation. But if it's higher or an agreed valuation, say it's another 50% higher, then that falls away and I no longer have that benefit after the subsequent round, which is good. It's something that says that we acknowledge that we want to be protected if we go down on this next one. But if you do go up, then we lose that right for any further rounds, which we do see a little bit more often, which is a little bit more balanced than some of the sort of term sheets we saw 2-3 years ago.